This video, I'm going to be teaching you guys about equilibrium, and to put it simply, what equilibrium is the halfway point of something. It's when two forces are balanced. That's literally the definition of it. So what I mean by that is you can have, for example, a swing like so, right? And the halfway point of this swing is at the 50. And by the way, with the Fibonacci's, these are percentages. So 0.5, that's 50%. That's halfway of this swing here. So what usually tends to happen is price will come back down. In some cases, it will tap the 50% and then it'll continue on. And in these cases, what we do is we look for our buy opportunities when price rejects the 50%. And equilibriums don't just go for they don't just go for sorry, let me just get rid of that. They don't just go for the price legs. It goes for the candles. It goes for inefficiencies. So for example, you could have the equilibrium of this candle here, and then you wait for price to come down to the 50% of that candle, mitigate out of it, and carry on. Obviously, we'll get into that later, so you don't have to stress yourself out about that right now. But you can also have, for example, the 50% of this inefficiency here, and that means that the average orders is at the 50%. So that's why we use it. The average order, the average volume, the average orders in this inefficiency will be at the 50%. And again, we'll get more into that later. So you'd have to stress yourself out about that right now. So just to show you how to use equilibrium in relation to price. So this is we had price downtrending, right? And this is on the 4 hours. So since like what's this, April, we've been downtrending all the way through to August. August, we had a break of structure, right? So if we zoom in, we had a break of structure here, and this had high momentum. Oh, sorry. And this had high momentum to the upside. So seeing as we also took out this liquidity here, you see that? We took it out. So seeing this and seeing you essentially, this is what you do. Let's get rid of this to do this again. You come from the low, right? And you drag it up to the high. And just for a better, to show you better, you go from the low, the low to the high, and you wait, and you see what price does. And it came down, it dove into the 50%, and we saw rejection. We saw price was unwilling. Oh, it's too much. We saw price was unwilling to continue lower. So what you do is you go into your lower time frames. So I usually go to the 15-minute when I go into the intraday, just because like that's my personal preference. And I just see what is what price is doing. So the 50% is here, right? We had price trending, consolidating for days at the 50% with no real direction, and we dove down. We took out all this liquidity here, and then here's what happened. We had a consolidation here, right? We had a consolidation here. Price decided to break out of the consolidation with high momentum, consolidate, and then wick down to mitigate out of this candle here. And when it decided to do that, so the equilibrium of this candle is at the 50%. So when it decided to do that, we had a nice move. So look, we had a nice move. Your stop loss is below this low here. So we had a nice, what, 7.5 pip stop loss. And if our take profit was at this break of structure here, this would have given us a nice 13% trade. You see how that happened? So we waited for the initial point of interest, which was this 50%. We saw that price wasn't really willing to go lower. We saw this breakout to the upside, high momentum, full body closures above. And we're like, okay, I'm gonna wait for my point of interest to be met. I'm gonna wait to see what price does. We saw this dive down to take out all this liquidity here, and this isn't the best representation of the candle, but on one of the different time frames you could probably see this better. We saw price mitigate out of this candle here, and we saw a nice sharp reaction off. And this is the kind of reaction, like I said, this is the kind of reaction you're looking for. And just to show you, this was a 13% trade, and let me just play to give you a understanding of how this happened. Actually, let me just quickly check something. You also saw that price came down into a more discounted market before continuing. So even though price came up and down and it tapped the 50%, there was something at a more discounted market that was more favorable for price to come down, mitigate out of before continuing. And if we just play this, there we go. That would have been your take profit hit, 13%. And what we saw price do, so if we go to the higher time frame, price just shoots off. And if you kept the position open all the way, you would have made a nice 66%. That is 66% of your total capital rewarded back to you. And there we go. Price literally just taken off. This is how you want to look for your setups. From the higher time frames, work your way down to the lower time frames, understand the story price is telling you, and that's pretty much it. It's don't overcomplicate it. Like, there is no need for you to like create hassle for yourself. There's a clear direction at all times, and you just need to read the story price is telling you. But besides that, thank you guys for listening, and on to the next.